Tonight, we are continuing our ongoing election series, bringing you conversations with candidates in some of this area's biggest races. These are not debates, but they are a chance for each candidate to lay out what their policies are and why they want your vote. Please note these interviews have been edited down for time. We do have the full versions up on our YouTube channel. Tonight, we focus on the race for Rock Island County Sheriff. Democrat Darren Hart is facing off against Republican Patrick Moody. We'll hear from both of the men tonight and begin with Hart, whose last name comes first alphabetically. It's part of our Your Voice, Your Vote coverage here on News 8 at 6:30.
Can you explain your background in law enforcement and some of the special tasks that you've been on or task force?
Sure. So I've been in law enforcement for 29 years. I actually started back in the early 90s with the city of Rock Island as a police officer. In 1997, I actually went over to the Rock Island County Sheriff's Office, and I've been there for the past 25 years.
This department has been captained by Sheriff Bustos for almost a decade now. You have his full endorsement. If you win on November 8th, would things change in this department, or would we see kind of a continuation of the Bustos sheriff?
No, I mean, obviously there would be changes from staffing to just our daily mission, what we do, the challenges that we face out in the community. We want to make sure that we continue to push forward, build on the foundation that we've had since the early 1800s, and I feel that I'm the individual to kind of push that forward, and I'm definitely going to do everything I can.
Well, let's move on to staffing. It's one of the biggest issues facing not just this department, but all across the nation.
Sure.
What ideas do you have to help improve staffing and help improve morale at the Rock Island County Sheriff's Department?
You know, we definitely need to have that community outreach where we're out, job fairs, we're going to schools. And those are some of the approaches that I'm going to take to get out into our community, have a visible presence. And then I think as we talk about morale, corrections is the area that we're having a lot of issues in. And when I say issues, it's just staffing issues, is that we're down. And that is a national trend as well. But we are making strides there, we will continue to do that and continue to press forward with hiring individuals as quickly as we can. That's what our mission is to be accountable, transparent, and teach people, not teach people, but to be accountable and show compassion to the individuals that we are tasked with supervision. And then we're going to continue to do that.
Do you have any specific ideas for how to not only draw people in, but keep people at the department? We
can definitely look at scheduling. There's a lot of things that we can do to make what we have already in place more enticing. We can definitely look at, wages are always an issue, but we have to be fiscally sound with what we do. It is a very large operation. It's continuous operation. It never shuts down. It's almost $15 million a year to run the Rock Island County Sheriff's Office. And we have to be able to make sure that when we expend resources that we are accountable to the taxpayers of Rock Island County, and I pledge to do that. I've said from day one that I'll have a conservative fiscal management approach.
How would you as a sheriff be prepared for the changes and implementations coming with the Safety Act?
Sure. Again, we've had a lot of dialogue. There is concerns with some of the legislation in the sense of the elimination of cash bail. That's supposed to start here in January. We are still working through that, what that will look like. But there are other pieces of that legislation that I do support. The Sheriff's Office has had body-worn cameras since 2019. It's part of the new legislation that it's a mandate statewide. We've met that mandate many years ago. The decertification and certification process for law enforcement. I think the community would say we want people who are doing what's right in law enforcement to be law enforcement officers, and that process will allow that to happen. But there is parts of the legislation that we're going to have to work through because we need to be able to go on out and meet our mission, which is protect our communities. And this agency will continue to do that. We will adapt to whatever the legislation looks like come January, and we will be out forefront protecting our communities. That's what we've done, and that's what we will continue to do.
Before the break, we heard from Darren Hart, the Democratic candidate for the Rock Island County Sheriff. Now our conversation with the Republican candidate, Patrick Moody. It's part of our Your Voice, Your Vote coverage here on News 8 at 6:30.
We're going to start off really easy. I'm just going to have you explain to people who you are, what your background in law enforcement is.
Okay. I got a job at the Henry County Sheriff's Department as a deputy sheriff, and that was in August of '92. So that's where I started my law enforcement career. And then from there, I eventually took a full-time position with Kelowna in '95, From there, I got hired on Moline in January of 2001, and I spent my last 20 years with Moline PD and retired in July of 2020.
So knowing all of that background, let's talk about the feature that you want.
Yes.
If you win this election, what are some of your top priorities when it comes to Sheriff of Rock Island County?
Well, my experience is it's unique, is I bring something new to the table here, which is I've been working the front lines my entire career. And I think that's been kind of the missing piece when you look at administrators with departments, is that I was on the front lines. I was there doing the work. And the biggest things, the biggest complaint is right now, especially with everything that's happened in the last couple of years, is morale. And I want to do things to make the department better that's going to add quality of life to the deputies and the correctional officers. One of those big tasks is that I want to deputize all the correctional officers inside the jail to where you're going to add value to their position. It's not unheard of. There's many sheriff's departments throughout the state to do it. I came from the Henry County Sheriff's Department, and they do it that way as well. And so by doing that, it allows them to have a little bit more authority when it comes to being inside the jail, to where they have arresting power inside the jail, where they can deal with the warrant stuff as well. And then there's plenty of other things that can be done as well. Like right now, the Sheriff's Department, as far as the road, they have absolutely the worst work schedule that I'm aware of in the Quad City area. They work off of a 6-2 rotation, and they're constantly having to work 6 days in a row. And there's other schedules out there that are far better. Those are things to me to where if the consensus is that that's what they want and it makes sense, then why not do it?
Well,
So,
a lot of that, like morale boosting,
it's important.
That goes along with one of the biggest challenges facing the Sheriff's Department is staffing.
Yes.
What other avenues do you have to help increase staffing?
It really, everything is turned upside down in the last couple of years. And it all went from, in 2020, and it was the defund the police movement, and it's gotten so bad where now they're trying to pass a lot of these crime bills that are trying to get pushed through. The Safety Act is the big one, where it's just making it worse and no one wants to do the job.
So what can you as sheriff do to help this? Because, when we talk about the Safety Act,
Yes.
there's not a similar bill in Iowa, and yet Iowa is experiencing the same staffing issue problems as Illinois. So what ways can you as sheriff help tackle this problem?
Everybody knows me as a cop's cop. Okay, I love people. I love building relationships with the public, but I'm a cop's cop, and everybody knows that. And so if I get elected here, I want to be able to use that platform in such a way where everybody knows that I'm going to support the profession, and I'm going to put myself out there in such a way to build better relationships with the public, where the public understands where we come from and we do what we do and why we do it, where there's more transparency. That platform has not been used in a way that it should for the longest time, and I want to be able to change that.
Again, both candidates' answers were edited down for time. To view a more in-depth version of these interviews, you can tune in to News 8 this week on Sunday morning at 10 a.m.